Will Payne for Payne Radio Group, coming to you from Hugo, Oklahoma, with Senator James Inhofe. It's a pleasure having you in the community. Thanks for coming down.
Well, it's great to be here. It really is. I get down here. It surprises a lot of people. They don't think of this as Oklahoma with the pine trees and the lakes and all that. This is God's country.
You had a chance to fly over and fly in, so you get to see all of that.
I did. In fact, I went over two of the lakes coming in because I was killing time because I knew you were going to be here at 9.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate that. Well, first of all, let's. You mentioned lakes real quickly. I know there's a lot of talk about Lake Texoma in this area and what can be done with that drought situation.
Well, the drought situation is serious, and of course, we get out west, way out west. The cotton farmers they're really hurting. It's a serious problem that they're having now, and of course, we are working on trying to get some of this stuff out of the water so that we can use that. Now, that doesn't help you in the eastern part of the state, but that's where a serious problem is.
I'll see at this moment. We have the issue in Ukraine right now.
Well, I was in Georgia right before the Winter Olympics, and at that time they had said, get ready because Putin's going to be coming into the Ukraine, and then we're going to be ready for him here because they were anticipating and predicting that after the Winter Olympics he would come in and do the same thing in Georgia as he has been doing in Ukraine. And we've let this administration, or hadn't let them, they've done it without our recommendation, just kind of kowtow to him, and we don't have any leadership here. And I don't hate to be that critical of Obama, but my gosh, this is with 20 kids and grandkids, I got to think of them more than I think of him. Right now, Putin is attempting to undo everything that Reagan did back in those days, and this hasn't happened yet in Georgia, and that may change, but that was their opinion as to what's going to happen.
All right, so next up is, will the United States stand up if something happens in an invasion of mainland Ukraine?
Here's the problem you have, Will. Starting 5 years ago, that was the first budget that Obama had. At that time, I said he's going to be disarming America, and he did that. The first budget, and this is really important that we pay attention to this, because the first budget he had 5 years ago, he did away with our only fifth-generation fighter, the F-22, did away with our lift capacity, the C-17, did away with our future combat system, and then he did away with the ground-based interceptor in Poland. That's the critical thing now. Now, that was all in one budget. Since that time, he's taken $487 billion out of the military, and with his sequestration, it'd be another $500 billion. And I can tell you, I carry quotes around with me. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff has said that we're so disabled that we don't have. Here, I'll just read it to you. I think it's important. Top military guy in America, General Dempsey. He said, our force is so degraded and so unready that it would be immoral to use force. I mean, this is what's happened to America. Nobody understands it, and nobody talks about it. But with that, it limits what we can do in our foreign policy because we don't have the assets to take care of ourselves, leave alone other people.
All right, we'll talk a little bit about foreign policy. Let's continue. There's a big story out of Malaysia. Everybody's looking for this Boeing 777. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, the first thing I said to my wife when we saw it happening, and that was the day that it disappeared, that it was probably a terrorist thing because it had all the signs. Now that we find out they've turned off the equipment at an appropriate time, we know that whoever's flying that thing is doing it intentionally, and so we can't record it. And so now where it is now, I don't know, but I have no doubt in my mind that it was a hijack or a terrorist, and I call them about the same. So that's, we have no way of knowing now except that had to be the case.
What's your thoughts? I mean, there's some sources saying that we may know in the next 48 hours what happened to this plane. Do you think the U.S. intelligence agency knows, but we're just not able to tell at this time?
No, I don't think they know. I think they're desperate to say something, but it has to be accurate because it reflects poorly on them. If you've got a 777 that's out there for days now, and our intelligence can't determine what it is, it shows that we've got some frailties in our system. So I think they're anxious to report something as soon as they can. They'd like to be first out of the chute. They'd like to beat Great Britain and some of the Israel and some of the other intelligence operations. But if they knew, we'd know it.
Buff. We're here in the hangar. You can see the helicopter behind us. So let's come back home and talk about some domestic issues that we're running into. One, you're a huge proponent of industrial and industry and states and transportation and getting the infrastructure back up to where it needs to be. But the EPA on the other side has been a big hindrance in that as well.
Well, let me say, Will, and I think it's important. You know this, but our viewers don't know this, that I've been ranked as the most conservative member of the United States Senate, more than anybody else has. So we start from that perspective. But if you go back and you read the Constitution, what we in the United States Senate are supposed to be doing, it's two things: defending America and infrastructure. That's what it says, Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. So that's where I concentrate. And I've already talked about how degraded we are militarily right now, but we also have a huge infrastructure need. We need to have a highway reauthorization bill, which we are working on as we speak right now, and I think we'll come up with one. But again, the administration, the Obama administration, if you stop and remember when he first got in office, he did an $800 billion stimulus bill. And that wasn't really a stimulus bill. It ended up being a slush fund for him. And people would say, well, wait a minute. If we have a problem with our roads and highways, if we have a problem funding our military, what did he spend all of his money on? Well, when you stop and think about it, and this is brand new stuff, less than a week ago, we analyzed this and determined that Barack Obama has spent $120 billion on his climate stuff, his environmental stuff. Now, I made the comment, with that same $120 billion, you could buy 1,400 F-35 aircraft. And so then we started going down piece by piece, saying how much of our what we could do militarily and with our infrastructure if we hadn't wasted that much money on all this environmental stuff. That is the problem that we've got. And I don't see I see a change. There's going to be a change at the next election in terms of the Senate. The Republicans will take over the control of the United States Senate, but still we'll have for 2 more years Barack Obama. Now, I know I sound like I'm unfair to him, but I never believed that we'd have someone as president of the United States that has such a disdain for all of the institutions that made America great.
We talk about the change in the Senate. If that happens, will the Senate and the House, controlled by the Republicans, will they be able to roll back or make some changes?
Yeah, here's the thing. People say, well, you still can't do it because you'll have a majority in the House. You'll have a majority in the Senate, but you won't have a veto-proof majority. Well, I would suggest that there are an awful lot of my good Democrat friends who will be up for re-election in 2016 who will be seeing what happened in 2014. This is the coming election in November, and they don't want to walk the plank with somebody with Obama. And so I think we're going to have more support from the Democrats on what we're trying to do in rebuilding the infrastructure, but rebuilding the military, and those things that we think are great. The problem that we're having right now, the EPA and all the regulators under the Obama administration, they are just really creating a problem with the overregulation. You talk to Tom Buchanan, who's the president of the Oklahoma Farm Bureau. He'll tell you that the problems that we are faced with in overregulation, such as the containers for your fuel on the farms, water runoff, endangered species, these are hurting the farmers far more than anything in the Farm Bill. And so that's what we have to attack. And that's where I think you're going to have a lot of the Democrats who before had not been any help will be a help. So hopefully we don't have to wait for till 2016 to save America. We can start probably a year from now.
Talking with Senator James Inhofe and Hugo at the Hugo Airport. Appreciate your time today.
Well, thanks for giving me an opportunity to talk to them.